Hi guys out there on YouTube world, if anybody ever watches this, hope you're doing well, having an awesome day or going into the night depending on which side of the pond you're on. This is a quick video on strops, a leather strop for your knife. The reason for that is my original strop I've had for probably 18 years-ish. I lent to a friend who was having a bit of a go, and as he started off he forgot you needed to draw the knife along it, not push the blade into it like you would with a stone. Hence, luckily that was at one end, so I've been able to salvage something, which I'll show you in a moment, but I needed to make a new one, and that's what I've done. Now, here's my new strop, already in use. I did make a video when this is the second time I've made this video. The first time is one of the ones that won't upload, so I'm redoing this. Basically, this is approximately 2 inch by 12 inch. This is about 12mm ply. Anything roughly around that size, it just needs to be strong enough that there's no giving it when you put any weight, especially in the middle. You want this to stay flat. Piece of leather on there, this is about 2.5mm leather. Really the thinner the better, realistically just enough to take the paste, because that stops the leather from getting soft and forming a dish. So if you're doing anything like with secondary bevels, Scandinavian grinds, chisel grinds, anything like that, the thinner the better. If you're using a lot of convex edges, where the actual edge has a curve, thicker leather, or even something like a mouse mat pad, and then the leather on top of that, which gives you a bit of that, which would dish in as you drew the knife along, will follow the contours of the knife. Remember what I've said about knife sharpening? You have to keep the bevel in contact either with the stone or with the strop. It's sharpening that whole bevel. Same thing with a convex, so something with a little bit of a sponge on it would be good for a convex blade. All I did was rough up the smooth side of the leather and the wood, and then a bit of the contact adhesive that you can get, Evo stick, something like that, any decent contact adhesive, upside down onto one of my pieces of granite, good few clamps on it, leave it to set. I mean, I know it says 15 minutes, but anything like that I tend to just leave overnight, and it just really lets the glue go off, and that way it stays, you know, it's not going anywhere. So that's what I did with this one. Now, couple of things. Here's some mini versions. Guess where they come from? Yep, that's right, these were off my original one. I always keep everything in plastic bags. I have the bag here for the tall one. The reason for that is, especially if you're anywhere dusty or mucky like this shop frequently is, and it was absolutely minging until I cleaned it up the other day, that dust will settle on the surface. So this is your sharpening surface, and the dust and the muck and the grime, anything around the shop will settle on that. So I keep mine in the plastic bag. It's not so much to keep the leather moist and from drying out, because I put the application on quite regularly. But these, like I said, these go into the plastic bags, and then they can just go in the shop. Same thing as if they're in your pack or anything like that, in a little bag. And if you've got the buffing compound on here, isn't going to get onto all your bits and pieces in your pack. This is a size that I've been going to make for a long time, never got round to it until now. So, you know, turn a negative into a positive. I clean these down as well. I'll talk about that in a second, and then reapplied the paste so they're ready to use. What I do once I've got this board ready, and it's all, this is the what we call the rough side really, up, and that's what takes some of the compound. And what I do is I take something, any kind of polish. This is professional super premium polishing paste, da-da-da-da, only because it was actually cheaper and I'd give it a try than the Autosol. Anybody over here in Kiwi land with me? If you're going to use something like this, Autosol does a great job. That's all I've ever used is Autosol, and it does an absolutely spot on job for polishing edges up. But have a Google. The price ranges from 15 bucks a tube in somewhere like Bunnings, Mitre 10, you know, anywhere like that, and I found it for just about $7. But what I did, unfortunately there was postage because it wasn't local, but I've just sent for 3 tubes, so the postage worked out just over $1 each, so the actual tubes worked out about $8. So against $14, $15 in the local shops. So it always pays to have a bit of a Google. Dr. Google, get out there. So yep, so this goes on. Basically what I do is I will get some of this and dab, 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 dab. I then take a drop of good quality oil. This is Croyle. Thanks Graham, got me onto this years ago for cleaning rifles. A bit of this into your into the cleaning fluid that you're using when you first pull your barrels through, any of the bore cleaner, well, any bore cleaner really I suppose, bit of this in, and it's a really fine, good quality engineering oil. And apparently the bench rest guys tell us it helps to draw the cleaning fluid and get some oil underneath any deposits in the barrel and helps to lift them off. It also gets right into anything in the barrel if you put a little drop in as well when you pull through, on your final pull through with your gun oil and a drop of this, and that gets into all the little nooks and crannies and scratches and pits and things like that and protects them. But in this case, same thing again as I would do with the paste, is dab it down here, just the same. What that does is it makes the paste, it just makes the paste a little bit more fluid. You can give it a good rub in, and then what I do then is I will leave it for a little while, make sure it's soaking in. That oil also feeds the leather a little bit, I hope anyway. That's the cunning plan behind it. And then what I do is I tend to just actually give it a little wipe off with a paper towel or something like that, just so you can just see that you've got the polishing paste on here. If you don't, when you start to use it and you've got a lot of paste on here, it ends up all over your bevels, all over your knife, all over your fingers, into that, and it gets all over the bloody place. And in fact all you need is a small amount on here. And I reapply every sort of like 2 or 3 knives. You'll soon see it's not quite cutting. I think hopefully, as you can see up here, it's quite pale and it starts to go darker. These, if that does show through the back, oh it does, yeah, you can see the consistent dark colour, and that basically is where the polishing paste builds up, but it's taking steel off the knife, so it's all those minute particles of steel that it's taking off, and that's what sends it black. And what you find is that just builds up and builds up, builds up. So every so often I'll take a flat piece of steel, I haven't got one lying around, typical, no planning, but you know, a flat piece of steel or your knife edge, and I just carefully scrape some of that compound off. The reason for that is it will build up and it will start to form lumps and bumps depending on how you draw your knife edge along there. So I've got a blank here, I'll show you. So obviously if you're sort of drawing your knife up here, where that knife goes most often, that's where you'll get most of the steel coming off. So this itself will then almost, you know, not microscope, almost, it's a tiny scale, but it will start to build up in different areas so it stops being flat. So using something like the back of your knife, you can scrape, something like that. Don't use the front, it's an abrasive, you'll take the edge off your knife, and I've seen people do it. So use the back edge, take that off, yeah? And then what that does, that helps to keep it flat. Okay, so that keeps everything nice and flat, and then pop a bit more paste on and starting again. All that black is, at the end of the day, there's no point in leaving it there and worrying about it and thinking, oh, I've got to build this compound up, because that is actually your buffing compound, which is an abrasive, clogged with all the particles from the steel. So basically what you'll have is almost a layer of steel on here, which will not cut anything that you're grinding on there. So that's why there's not enough point. It's the same as if you've got a sharpening stone and you don't clean it. The tiny particles of metal will clog up the surface of the stone, whether that's a diamond stone or a carbonundrum stone or anything else. It will clog that surface up, and therefore it will no longer cut and work. So that's why every so often give it a clean off and reapply the paste. Every sort of, like say, 2, 3, 4 knives, depending on how much it gets used. When I get done, into the bag, goes away, keeps it nice and clean. I did do a video showing you me actually using this when I had some sharpening tips. I think it was the secret of knife sharpening video, which isn't a secret at all, it's just common sense, but unfortunately sense isn't common. So with that I'll knock off there, and hopefully everything will go well and this will upload and be wonderful, and the videos will then start upcoming again. Sorry guys. With that I'm going to sign off, crack on with some jobs I've got going on, and speak to you guys later. Get out there doing it. Awesome guys, eh? Awesome. Don't forget to subscribe. Speak to you soon.